In this video, I'm going to show you how to bind off or cast off in Tunisian crochet. If you're new to this technique of Tunisian crochet, I've provided a link below for the video tutorial on how to do that. So to bind off, there's one of two ways, depending on the row that you're on while in the pattern of doing Tunisian crochet. So if you're at this step where you've just worked your way back, and if you were continuing with the pattern, the next step would have been to get into these vertical lines and start picking them up. But at this point, if you want to end here, let's say your project calls for a drawstring to be inserted at the top where you're going to bind these two, and you want these holes to be there on either side, then at this point you would just draw your yarn through this loop, snip it off, and tighten this, and that would be it. But a typical bind off in this is actually to end on the next row where you're going in and picking up the stitch from that next vertical row. And normally you would have continued on picking, but in this case we're binding it off. So after you've picked up that stitch, you want to then draw that stitch through that first stitch. Okay, let's do that again. So I'm ready to start this next row. I'm going to pick up the first stitch, and then I'm going to draw it through that first loop. Then I'm going to pick up the next stitch, and I'm going to draw it through the previous stitch. And this is how you would continue through for the rest of the row, picking up a stitch and drawing it through the next stitch. So you end up with just one loop on the hook as you make your way down the whole row. And you'll notice that it gives you a very nice edging to the bind off. And so you'll keep doing that till you get to the end. And then at the end, you would just pull the yarn through, and I'll get there in just a second. Getting ahead of myself here. So the last stitch you're going to pick up as usual through both legs of this V at the end, and do the same thing, draw it through here, and then you can put another loop, tighten it, and then snip your yarn, and that's it. Then you'll weave your ends in, and that's your bind off edge for Tunisian crochet.